The massive doors of the Galactic Senate Hall parted with a low hum. Ambassador Olivia Martinez took a deep breath, straightened her blue diplomatic uniform, and stepped forward. Behind her followed her team, Security Chief Jack Nelson, a former Marine with calm eyes that missed nothing, and Cultural Attaché Samantha Green, whose warm smile and quick mind had earned her this historic position. "Remember," Olivia whispered to her team, "we only get one chance at a first impression." The Senate chamber stretched before them like an enormous theater in the round. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the curved rows that rose high into the shadows. Some looked almost human, bipedal with recognizable facial features. Others defied easy description, clouds of shifting color, crystalline structures that floated in midair, and massive creatures that seemed more like living mountains than individuals. The humans walked slowly to the central platform, every step echoing in the sudden silence. This was humanity's formal introduction to the greater galactic community, 3 years after a luminary scout ship had made first contact with Earth. Grand Senator Zilfex, a tall being with iridescent skin that shifted between blue and purple, stood from the highest tier. "The Senate recognizes the delegation from Earth, third planet of the Sol system," Zilfex announced, voice amplified throughout the chamber. "You may present your case for probationary membership." Olivia stepped forward, the platform beneath. Her feet glowed, activating the translation field. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Senate, I bring greetings from Earth and the United Nations of Humanity," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "We come seeking friendship and the exchange of knowledge." A rumble of voices rose from the assembly. Many leaned forward in curiosity. Some pulled back in obvious distrust. "Before I begin our formal petition," Olivia continued, "we wish to observe the custom of gift-giving that is shared by many cultures throughout the galaxy." This caused another stir. Samantha stepped forward, opening a large case she had carried in. Inside were 100 small objects, each carefully wrapped. "For each representative species, we have brought something handmade by Earth artisans," Olivia explained. "Not replicated or manufactured, but crafted by human hands especially for this meeting." The Senate protocol droids, sleek silver machines, floated forward to collect and distribute the gifts. Each package contained a small, blown glass sculpture of Earth, with the continents raised slightly from the oceans. When held to light, they sparkled with surprising depth and beauty. From the Draconid section, a tall reptilian figure rose. His scales were deep red and gold rings adorned his crest. "I am Zorthul of the Draconid Imperium," he announced, his voice a low rumble. "While these trinkets are pretty, I must remind the Senate of matters more important than gifts. The humans come from a world of constant warfare. Their history is written in blood. Even their journey to the stars began with weapons development." Olivia kept her expression neutral, though the words stung with their partial truth. "Our history contains much violence," she acknowledged. "We don't hide this, but it also contains music, art, philosophy, and the constant effort to become better than we were. We stand before you not as perfect beings, but as people striving to grow." Grand Senator Zilfex raised a hand, silencing the growing murmurs. "What specific contributions would Earth offer the Senate?" Zilfex asked. Jack Nelson stepped forward now. "Our adaptability. Humans evolved on a world of extreme environments. Deserts, Arctic regions, mountains, oceans. We can live and work in conditions many species find challenging." "And your primary request of the Senate would be?" another senator called out. This one a being that seemed to be made of overlapping geometric plates that clicked softly when she moved. "Knowledge exchange, trade agreements, and permission to establish outposts in unclaimed systems," Olivia replied. "But first we have a small request that might seem unusual." She nodded to Samantha, who activated a small holographic projector. Above the central platform appeared the image of a garden, simple plants growing in orderly rows and circles. "We request permission to establish what we call a community garden in the central atrium of the Senate complex," Olivia said. "A place where we will grow plants from Earth that all species can enjoy or study. a symbolic gesture of putting down roots among you. The Senate hall fell quiet, then erupted in 100 conversations at once. The concept seemed to confuse many representatives. You wish to grow food? Here? Asked a gaseous entity contained within a floating mechanical sphere. Not just food, Samantha explained. Flowers for beauty, herbs for scent, plants chosen to be safe for all known Senate species to touch and experience. A living gift that will continue to grow. Grand Senator Zilfex studied the humans carefully. An unusual request. Most new species seek technology access or defense treaties first. We seek connection first, Olivia said simply. The rest can follow. After much discussion, the Senate granted provisional approval both for Earth's probationary membership and for the Garden Project. As the human delegation was escorted to their temporary quarters, Zorthul of the Draconids watched them with narrow eyes. He turned to the representative beside him, a slender, blue-skinned centaurian named Milara. Their smiles hide something, he said quietly. No species evolves to be this accommodating, without reason. Milara's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Perhaps. Or perhaps we have grown too cynical in our age. Over the next several days, the humans confused the Senate staff with their behaviors. While most species communicated through official channels and formal protocols, the humans sought face-to-face meetings. They remembered the names of maintenance workers. They insisted on preparing some of their own food, rather than using the molecular synthesizers. Ambassador Martinez spent hours each day in the new garden space, often inviting passing Senate members to join her. She asked me to place a seed in the soil, reported one bewildered Arthenian diplomat to his colleagues. Said it would grow better if many species contributed. Most illogical. 1 month into their probationary period, the garden began to take shape. Colorful flowers bloomed alongside herbs with strange, enticing scents. The humans installed benches and small water features. Senate members who had never spoken to each other began to pause there, drawn by curiosity. I believe we misjudged them, Grand Senator Zilfex told the Executive Council. They seek genuine connection. Zorthul remained, unconvinced. That is precisely what concerns me. No species reaches the stars without developing protective barriers, both physical and social. These humans have none. They touch, they share food, they expose their thoughts freely. It is not natural. Not natural for you, perhaps, replied Zilfex. But evolution takes many paths. In their private chambers that evening, the human delegation reviewed their progress. They're beginning to warm to us, Samantha said, scrolling through her notes. The garden was a brilliant idea, Olivia. Let's not celebrate yet, Jack cautioned. The Draconids are watching our every move, and we still haven't been granted access to the central archives. Olivia looked out the viewport at the stars. Different constellations than those seen from Earth, but with the same eternal light. We keep doing what we're doing, she said firmly. Be genuine, be helpful. Show them that humans can be trusted, allies. And if they never trust us? Jack asked. Olivia smiled slightly. Then we'll just have to be so nice they won't know what to do with us. None of them noticed the small monitoring device in the corner of the room, its light blinking steadily as it transmitted their conversation to unknown listeners. 3 months passed since Earth gained its probationary Senate membership. The human garden in the central atrium now flourished with plants from across Earth, red roses next to desert cacti, Japanese maple trees beside herbs from South American rainforests. Senate members from 100 worlds had begun to gather there during breaks drawn by the novel scents and colors, but beyond the peaceful garden, trouble brewed. Emergency alarms echoed through the Senate complex one morning, calling all representatives to an unscheduled session. Olivia Martinez rushed to the chamber, her team close behind. The great hall buzzed with tense voices. On the main projection, a star map showed a region near the border between 2 major powers, the aggressive Varaxian Empire and the peaceful Luminari Collective. The situation is critical, announced Grand Senator Zilfex when all had assembled. The Varaxians have claimed the Nebula 9 sector, which the Luminari have maintained as a nature preserve for 3 centuries. The Varaxian representative, a heavily armored being with 4 arms and eyes that glowed orange, stood proudly. The sector contains rare minerals our empire requires. The Luminari waste this resource with their obsession for preserving empty space. The Luminari delegate, a tall, willowy being who seemed to glow from within, rose in opposition. That empty space contains 16 endangered spacefaring species. Once they are gone, they cannot be recovered. Back and forth the arguments went. Jack Nelson leaned toward Olivia. Classic resource dispute. Both sides have valid points, but neither will back down. Samantha nodded. The Voraxians value strength above all. The Luminari value life. There's no middle ground. Olivia listened carefully as Zilfex attempted to negotiate. When the Grand Senator called for possible solutions, Olivia raised her hand. The chamber fell silent as she was recognized. Earth is still new to galactic politics, she began, but perhaps this gives us a fresh perspective. We propose a third option. She nodded to Samantha, who activated their holographic display. A space station appeared, circular with extending arms like a wheel with spokes. Humans will establish a diplomatic outpost in the contested region, Olivia continued. We will serve as neutral mediators between both powers, ensuring neither side takes advantage while negotiations continue. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Zorthul, the skeptical Draconid, let out a barking laugh. Humans cannot survive in Nebula 9, he said dismissively. The radiation levels alone would kill you within days. The atmosphere on the habitable planets is toxic to oxygen breathers. Olivia nodded calmly. We are aware of the challenges. We've already developed protective measures and habitat designs specifically for these conditions. She gestured, and a human man stepped forward to join her on the platform. He wore the uniform of Earth's Engineering Corps, with the name Wright on his badge. This is Chief Engineer Daniel Wright, Olivia introduced him. He will lead what we call Project Olive Branch. Daniel activated his own holographic display, showing detailed schematics. Our station will be self-sustaining and shielded against radiation. More importantly, we've developed technology that will actually begin to reduce the toxic elements in the surrounding environment. The Luminari representative's glow brightened with interest. You would heal the damage done by past mining operations? Yes, Daniel confirmed. It's a technique we developed on Earth to clean up our own industrial mistakes. The Varaxian delegate pounded a fist on his console. And what do humans gain from this interference? What resources do you secretly seek? Diplomatic experience, Olivia answered honestly. And the chance to turn a potential war zone into a model for cooperation. We call that a good investment. The Senate debated for hours. Finally, Grand Senator Zilfex called for a vote. The majority approved the human proposal, though many remained skeptical. As the session ended, the Senate Security Director, a gruff, scarred being named Vrax, approached Jack Nelson. A word, human. Jack followed Vrax to a private chamber, where the Security Director activated a signal jammer. Your ambassador's proposal, Vrax said bluntly. No species volunteers to place themselves in danger for others' disputes. Explained the real motivation. Jack maintained a neutral expression. It is what the ambassador said. We wish to help. Nonsense. Even the most charitable species in the Senate would not send their people to die in a toxic environment for strangers. We're not planning to die, Jack replied evenly. We're planning to succeed. Vrax leaned closer. Your species is either incredibly naive or playing a game beyond our understanding. Which is it? Jack simply smiled. Why can't we simply wish to help? Over the next 2 months, human ships and personnel arrived in the contested region. Construction of Project Olive Branch began in earnest. The station took shape, not as the sleek automated facilities most Senate species would build, but as something uniquely human. Gardens grew in transparent domes. Common areas featured art and music. The station was designed not just for function but for comfort and beauty. During a scheduled progress report to the Senate, Daniel Wright displayed live feeds from the nearly completed station. We've already welcomed observer teams from both the Varaxian Empire and the Luminary Collective, he explained. They live and work alongside our personnel. The cameras showed Varaxian soldiers helping human engineers install atmosphere processors. In another section, Luminary scientists worked with humans to catalog local space-dwelling lifeforms. Most surprising, Daniel continued, we've discovered the nebula's unique radiation actually has beneficial applications we hadn't anticipated. Samantha took over the presentation. The radiation, when properly filtered, appears to neutralize a pathogen that has plagued Varaxian mining colonies for decades, and the chemical compounds the Luminari were protecting can be synthesized to produce the filtration system. Neither side knew their conflict zone held the solution to problems, beyond the obvious. The Senate chamber remained unusually quiet as the implications sank in. In the observation gallery, Sorthul watched with narrowed eyes. The Centaurian Milara floated beside him. The humans found a way both sides could claim victory, Milara noted. Quite clever. Too clever, Sorthul muttered. They've positioned themselves between two powerful forces, gaining the gratitude of both. When the time comes to ask for favors in return, perhaps, Milara suggested gently, they truly intended what they claimed, to help. Sorthul snorted. No species is that selfless. They are building influence, establishing themselves as essential mediators. Watch how they operate. They bring gifts, they create beautiful spaces, they solve problems no one asked them to solve. It is a strategy, not kindness. On the station itself, now officially named Olive Branch, Ambassador Olivia Martinez looked out at the swirling colors of the nebula. 200 humans now called this place home. Despite the challenges and the constant need for protective gear outside the sealed habitats, the project was succeeding. Progress report, she said to her assistant. Peace talks are proceeding ahead of schedule, the young man replied. The Varaxians respect our willingness to endure hardship. The Luminari appreciate our efforts to restore the environment. Olivia nodded. And our own objectives? We're learning more every day about both cultures. The garden is serving as a neutral ground for informal discussions. The medical research team has made breakthroughs they're excited about. Neither of them noticed the small craft drifting silently through the nebula, its systems powered down to avoid detection. Aboard, a group of Varaxian extremists prepared their weapons. Their leader stared at the human station with hatred. Prepare the explosives, he ordered. The humans have fooled everyone with their smiles and gifts. But we know the truth. They seek to control our rightful territory. Tonight we show the galaxy that the Varaxian Empire cannot be manipulated by human tricks. 6 months after its creation, Project Olive Branch had transformed from a simple space station into a thriving community. 200 humans now lived there permanently, working alongside visiting Varaxian and Luminari delegations. The station's outer hull gleamed against the colorful backdrop of the nebula. Inside, gardens flourished in specially designed habitats, and the first results of the environmental cleanup were becoming visible in the surrounding space. Commander Lisa Rodriguez stood in the station's control center, reviewing the latest atmospheric readings. As the station's operational leader, she took pride in what they had accomplished. The toxin levels are down another 12%, said her assistant George Baker, pointing to charts on the main screen. The Luminary scientists say 3 new species of space-dwelling organisms have returned to the region. Lisa nodded, pleased. And the peace talks? Making real progress, George replied. The Varaxians have agreed to limit mining to the uninhabited planets, and the Luminari are helping design extraction methods that minimize environmental damage. Both sides seem genuinely committed. At that moment, the station's diplomatic lounge was hosting an informal gathering. Representatives from the Varaxian Empire sat across from Luminari delegates, sharing a meal prepared by the station's human chefs. The mood was relaxed, a stark contrast to the hostile silence that had marked early meetings. Your species continues to surprise us, said Vornak, the lead Varaxian negotiator, to a human diplomat. The radiation filters you developed have already saved lives in our mining colonies. The human smiled. Necessity breeds innovation. We faced similar challenges on Earth. In another section of the station, human engineers worked alongside Varaxian technicians, teaching them the environmental restoration techniques developed on Earth. The Varaxians, usually dismissive of what they considered soft science, showed unusual interest. None of them noticed when the station's long-range sensors briefly detected an unauthorized vessel before it disappeared again into the nebula's thick gases. In the Galactic Senate chamber, light years away, a routine session was underway. Ambassador Olivia Martinez was presenting the monthly progress report on Project Olive Branch when an urgent message interrupted the proceedings. A communications officer rushed to Grand Senator Zilfex, whispering urgently. The Grand Senator's iridescent skin darkened with alarm. "We are receiving an emergency transmission from Olive Branch Station," Zilfex announced, voice grave, putting it on the main screen. The peaceful scene of the Senate chamber disappeared, replaced by chaos. Emergency lights flashed across smoke-filled corridors. The transmission was fragmented, breaking up every few seconds. "Under attack," came Commander Rodriguez's voice, punctuated by static. "Explosions in multiple sectors need immediate." The video feed stabilized briefly, showing the station's control center. Part of the ceiling had collapsed. Crew members moved urgently in the background, some helping injured colleagues. "This is Commander Rodriguez," Lisa continued, her face smudged with soot but her voice steady. "We've suffered multiple explosions. Initial evidence suggests a Varaxian extremist group is responsible. They've damaged our life support systems, and hull integrity is compromised in sectors 3 through 7. The Senate watched in stunned silence as she continued her report. "We have casualties, including several Varaxian and Luminary delegates. Emergency protocols are in effect, but..." The feed cut out momentarily, then returned. "Losing atmosphere in residential areas. Request immediate assistance from any vessels in range." As the Senate erupted in shouting and demands for action, the feed from Olive Branch continued to broadcast. What the gathered representatives saw next silenced them completely. Despite the crisis, the humans on the station weren't panicking. They moved with purpose. The cameras captured scenes throughout the damaged station. A human engineer held a patch against a leaking wall with his bare hands, the skin turning blue from cold as atmosphere vented around him, while another worker made repairs. In a damaged residential section, humans formed a human chain across a gap in the floor, allowing Luminary civilians to cross to safety. Most shocking to the watching Senate, when emergency oxygen masks dropped due to failing life support, humans consistently passed their masks to nearby aliens before seeking their own. Commander Rodriguez's voice came through again. "Main power failing. Switching to emergency backups. We're attempting to evacuate the most vulnerable first, but many refuse to leave without helping." The Senate watched as a Varaxian security officer tried to force a human medic to evacuate. The medic shook her head, pointed to injured patients, and continued working. In the diplomatic section, cameras showed the Varaxian and Luminary delegations being ushered to escape pods by their human hosts. A human diplomat gave his environmental suit to a Varaxian delegate when the alien suit malfunctioned. Back in the control center, Commander Rodriguez coordinated the response, remaining eerily calm despite the deteriorating situation. "We have confirmed 18 extremists boarded from a stealth vessel," she reported. "Their stated goal is to disrupt the peace process. They claim humans are secretly arming the Luminary against the Varaxian Empire." An explosion rocked the control center. The camera feed tilted wildly before stabilizing again. When it cleared, Rodriguez was pressing a bandage to a wound on her forehead. "Station integrity at 38% and falling," she continued as if nothing had happened. "We've secured the attackers, but the damage is severe. We estimate 30 minutes before critical failure." A Senate member called out, "Commander." "Save yourselves, abandon the station." Rodriguez looked directly into the camera. Her expression was not one of fear but determination. "We promise to be here for both sides. A promise is a promise." Rodriguez out. The transmission cut to static. The Senate chamber remained silent for several long moments. Sorthul, the skeptical Draconid representative, was the first to speak. They're staying to save the aliens. They're sacrificing themselves for a peace that isn't even their concern. In the tense hours that followed, the Senate mobilized rescue vessels. The Varaxian Emperor himself dispatched his personal fleet to assist, publicly denouncing the extremist faction. The Luminari sent their fastest medical ships. Updates came, sporadically, as the rescue effort unfolded. The station's condition continued to deteriorate, but the humans refused to abandon their posts until every alien visitor was evacuated. When the rescue ships arrived, they found humans still at their stations, some wearing makeshift breathing apparatus cobbled together from spare parts after giving their proper equipment to others. When the final count came in, the Senate learned that 12 humans had died. Each death had occurred while protecting others, holding doors against decompression, manually operating life support systems that should have been automated, or returning to dangerous areas to search for missing persons. Not a single Varaxian or Luminari delegate had been lost. 3 days after the attack, Grand Senator Zilfex called an emergency session to address the crisis. The Senate expected Earth to withdraw from membership and possibly declare war on the Varaxians. Representatives prepared diplomatic language to soothe human anger. None of them were prepared for what would happen next. 3 weeks after the attack on Olive Branch Station, the Galactic Senate gathered for what many believed would be Earth's formal withdrawal from the interstellar community. The damage to the station had been catastrophic. 12 humans had died. The peace process between the Varaxians and Luminari seemed doomed. Security was unusually tight as delegates filed into the Great Chamber. Rumors spread that the humans might seek revenge against the Varaxians. Some senators whispered that Earth might even declare war. Ambassador Olivia Martinez entered wearing a simple black dress with a small silver pin, Earth's symbol of mourning for those lost. Behind her walked Jack Nelson and Samantha Green, their faces solemn but composed. The chamber fell silent as Olivia took her place at the speaking platform. Grand Senator Zilfex addressed her first. Ambassador Martinez, the Senate extends its deepest condolences for your losses. The attack was a violation of all diplomatic principles we uphold. Before you speak, know that the Senate has already voted to condemn the Varaxian extremists and offer whatever assistance Earth requires. Olivia nodded her acknowledgement. Thank you, Grand Senator. We appreciate the Senate's support during this difficult time. She paused, looking around the vast chamber. Many delegates couldn't meet her eyes, especially those from the Varaxian delegation, who sat with heads bowed in shame. I have been authorized by Earth's United Nations to deliver our official response to these events, Olivia continued. The Senate chamber was completely still. Even the usual background hum of translation devices seemed muted. The people of Earth have decided that our response to violence will not be more violence, Olivia stated clearly. Instead, we announce the following actions. She activated the holographic display. The image of Olive Branch Station appeared, but now with new sections and expanded facilities. First, Earth will rebuild Project Olive Branch, larger and more advanced than before. Construction will begin immediately using improved designs that incorporate stronger safety measures. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the audience. This was not what anyone had expected. Second, Olivia continued, we specifically request increased Varaxian participation in the reconstruction, not as punishment, but as partners. The Varaxian delegation's head jerked up in shock. Third, our scientists have developed new environmental remediation technology that will accelerate the healing of the nebula region. This technology will be shared freely with all Senate species, with no patents or restrictions. As she spoke, the holographic display showed the schematics for the new station and the environmental systems. The Senate representatives leaned forward, studying the images with growing interest. But how can you rebuild? Called out one senator. The attack destroyed most of your equipment and materials. We planned for setbacks, Olivia replied simply. Perhaps not this severe, But humans have learned through our history that peace is rarely achieved without sacrifice. Before further questions could be asked, the great doors of the Senate chamber opened. A delegation of imposing Varaxians entered, led by a figure whose armor gleamed with imperial insignia, the Varaxian Emperor himself, a rare presence in the Senate. The Emperor strode forward, his forearms displayed in the open position that indicated peaceful intent in Varaxian culture. The Varaxian Empire offers formal apologies and reparations, he announced in a deep, resonant voice. The criminals responsible have been captured and await punishment according to our most severe laws. To everyone's surprise, Ambassador Martinez raised her hand to interrupt. If I may, Emperor, we have a request regarding the punishment. The Emperor inclined his head, giving permission to continue. We would prefer your engineers and scientists over your apologies, Olivia said. The extremists believed violence was the answer. Let us show them that cooperation builds more than destruction can ever tear down. Let's build something together. The Emperor stood motionless for several moments. Such mercy was not part of Varaxian culture, where strength and retribution were valued above all. Finally, he gave a short, sharp nod. It shall be as you request, though I do not fully understand your ways. From the side entrance, another group entered the chamber. Commander Lisa Rodriguez walked slowly, still recovering from her injuries. Behind her came several humans in medical uniforms, led by a tall man with silver hair. Grand Senator Zilfex recognized them. The Senate acknowledges Commander Rodriguez and Medical Director Alan Foster of Project Olive Branch. Alan Foster stepped forward, activating his own data display. During our time in the nebula, we made an unexpected discovery. The unique radiation that made the region dangerous to most species has properties we hadn't anticipated. Charts and molecular diagrams appeared in the air above the platform. The radiation, when properly processed, can be used to treat a genetic disease that has plagued the Varaxian people for generations, he explained. A disease that causes their children to develop improperly, leading to pain and early death. The Varaxian Emperor stepped forward. This disease has taken 1 in 5 of our young for millennia. Are you saying you have found a cure? Not yet a cure, Alan replied carefully, but a treatment that could significantly reduce suffering and extend life. We've been researching this since we first discovered the connection. You did this research while building a station and negotiating peace? Asked a Luminari delegate, voice filled with wonder. Commander Rodriguez spoke up. We came to help. That means all forms of help, not just diplomatic. The Senate chamber erupted in discussion. No one had expected the humans to respond to an attack with greater commitment to peace. Even more shocking was the revelation that they had been quietly working to solve a Varaxian medical crisis, even as extremists plotted against them. After order was restored, Senator Zilfex addressed the chamber. I begin to understand what we're witnessing. The humans' greatest weapon isn't their capacity for violence, it's their stubborn refusal to abandon hope, even when logic dictates they should. The Varaxian Emperor stepped closer to the human delegation. In a gesture unprecedented in Varaxian diplomatic history, he lowered himself to one knee before Ambassador Martinez. The Varaxian Empire pledges full support to Project Olive Branch and offers alliance with Earth. You faced our worst and responded with your best. There is no greater honor in our culture. Olivia gently placed her hand on the Emperor's armored shoulder, another break with protocol that caused gasps throughout the chamber. We accept your alliance and support. Together, we will build something that will benefit generations to come. As the formal proceedings continued, Sorthul of the Draconids watched intently from his private chamber. The Centaurian Milara floated nearby. Now do you see? Milara asked. They truly are as they appear. Sorthul's scaled face was unreadable. What I see is a strategy so advanced we cannot comprehend it. They turned an attack into an opportunity. They converted an enemy into an ally. They found value where others saw only danger. Perhaps, suggested Milara, what you are struggling to understand is simply kindness on a scale you haven't encountered before. Kindness does not survive in the cosmos, Zorthul replied. The void is cold and resources are limited. Species that sacrifice themselves for others should have died out long ago. And yet, Milara said softly, here they are, turning their greatest tragedy into their greatest diplomatic victory. Perhaps we have much to learn from them. Far away in the rebuilding efforts at Olive Branch Station, humans worked alongside Varaxians and Luminari, transforming wreckage into something new. Where once there had been suspicion, now there was cautious respect. The humans' response to violence had changed everything. No one noticed a small drone recording everything and transmitting back to Earth, where the United Nations Secretary watched with approval. The plan was working better than anyone had dared to hope. 1 year had passed since the attack on Olive Branch Station. What had once been a simple diplomatic outpost was now an impressive complex of interconnected structures gleaming against the colorful backdrop of the nebula. The once toxic environment showed visible signs of healing. New species of space-dwelling creatures floated peacefully through areas that had been uninhabitable just months before. Inside the station, the transformation was even more remarkable. Humans worked alongside Varaxians, Luminari, and representatives from a dozen other Senate species. Gardens flourished in large biodomes. Research facilities hummed with activity. In the central plaza, a memorial garden honored the 12 humans who had given their lives during the attack, their names engraved on stones brought from Earth. Commander Lisa Rodriguez stood at the viewport in her office, watching a Varaxian engineering vessel guide a new habitat module into position. Her injuries from the attack had healed, though she still walked with a slight limp. Commander, her assistant said from the doorway, the Senate delegation has arrived. They're gathering. In the main conference room. Lisa nodded. Thank you. I'll be there shortly. She took a final look at the activity outside. Project Olive Branch had grown far beyond its original purpose. What had begun as a simple diplomatic solution to a border dispute was now the Senate's first multi-species scientific and cultural exchange center. The Varaxian Luminari peace treaty had been signed 6 months ago, but neither side had withdrawn from the project. In the Galactic Senate chamber, light years away, a special session was about to begin. The Great Hall was filled to capacity. Even species that rarely attended full sessions had sent representatives. Something important was about to happen. Grand Senator Zilfex called the session to order. Today marks 1 year since the Olive Branch incident. What began as tragedy has transformed into something none of us could have predicted. The main screen activated, showing a live connection to the station. Commander Rodriguez and her team appeared alongside the Varaxian and Luminari delegations. The Senate recognizes the achievements of Project Olive Branch, Zilfex continued. The successful negotiation of the Varaxian Luminari Treaty alone would be cause for celebration. But the project has achieved much more. Images appeared on secondary screens. The environmental restoration efforts, the medical advances being made in the research facilities, the cultural exchanges taking place daily. We gather today for a special purpose, Zilfex announced. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Senate will create a new official position within our structure. Murmurs spread through the chamber. New positions were rarely created. To everyone's surprise, the Draconid representative Zorthul requested permission to speak. Once the Senate's most vocal critic of humans, he had been unusually quiet in recent months. The floor recognizes Representative Zorthul, Zilfex said. Zorthul rose, his scales gleaming under the chamber lights. He surveyed the gathered delegates before speaking. When humans first arrived in this chamber, I warned you all about their violent history, he began. I was not wrong about their past, but I was wrong about what that history meant. He activated a personal display, showing scenes from Earth's history, wars, natural disasters, struggles for survival. We feared humans because their history showed a remarkable capacity for warfare, Zorthul continued. What we failed to understand was that this same evolutionary path created a species that, when directed toward peace, becomes unstoppable. The images changed to show the rebuilding of Olive Branch Station. Humans working tirelessly alongside aliens who had once been suspicious of them. Their empathy is not weakness. It's their most terrifying quality, Zorthul stated, his voice resonating through the chamber. They do not simply accept differences, they celebrate them. They do not merely tolerate hardship, they transform it. And most disturbingly, they do not stay within comfortable boundaries. They continuously expand what they consider worth saving, to include those who aren't even like them. The Senate chamber was completely silent as Zorthul continued. A Varaxian attacks them, and they respond by researching cures for Varaxian diseases. Their station is destroyed, and they build something better in its place. They face death, and they ensure others live first. Zorthul turned to face the human delegation directly. I now understand why humans are dangerous. Not because they might destroy us, but because they will change us. Their relentless optimism and cooperation is more contagious than any disease. They make us question practices we have followed for millennia. They make us want to be better. Zilfex nodded in acknowledgement of Zorthul's words. It is precisely for these reasons that the Senate Executive Council proposes the creation of a new position. Humanity will serve as the official diplomatic corps of the Galactic Senate, with Ambassador Martinez as its director. The vote that followed was unanimous, the first such vote in the Senate's long history. On the station, the celebration was modest by human standards but deeply meaningful. Humans and aliens gathered in the memorial garden, planting new seeds to mark the occasion. Later, that evening, Commander Rodriguez walked through the newly completed environmental sector. Plants from dozens of worlds grew here, part of the ongoing restoration project. She found a Varaxian engineer working alone, carefully setting young seedlings into prepared soil. Working late? Lisa asked. The Varaxian, Krav, one of the Empire's most skilled environmental engineers, looked up. These particular plants require planting during the station's night cycle. They are sensitive to certain light wavelengths. Lisa knelt beside him, taking a seedling from the container. May I help? Krav nodded, showing her the correct depth for planting. They worked in comfortable silence for several minutes. I still don't understand, Krav said finally. Why did you come back after we attacked you? Lisa continued planting, considering her words carefully. Because giving up on someone is the easiest thing in the universe. We decided a long time ago to do the hard things instead. Krav's hands paused in their work. The others were right. You humans are terrifying. Lisa laughed and handed him another seedling. Only when we're being nice. Now let's see if these will grow in the south quadrant. As they continued working, the station drifted through the nebula. Outside, the once toxic clouds continued to clear, revealing stars that had been hidden for centuries. New life thrived where there had been only poison before. On Earth, the United Nations Security Council reviewed the latest reports from Project Olive Branch. The Secretary General smiled as she closed the file. It's working better than we expected, an advisor noted. Of course it is, the Secretary General replied. We sent our best people and we told them to be themselves. There's no diplomatic strategy more powerful than genuine human kindness. She looked at the final image. Humans and aliens working side by side, building something new together. And that, she said softly, is how you change a galaxy. Not with weapons or threats, but with gardens and hospitals and the simple act of caring about someone different from yourself.